Hello and welcome to another Spotlight Photographics and Photo Solutions University website tutorial video. Today we're going to be talking about the Xtreme Team posters. So these are the team shots that we shoot all on green screen and we assemble to make something look like this. This system works really well, but you do need to make sure you follow the right guidelines and restrictions when it comes to the Xtreme teams. And before we get into this, I'm going to advise you on a couple things that you need to make sure you do in the shooting process when it comes to Xtreme teams. And it's pretty easy, but you do need to make sure you follow these rules before we get started. So before you even go to the shoot, make sure you have this stuff set up correctly. The biggest thing about green screen is you want to make sure it's lighted right. And I do have a diagram here I'm going to show you. This is a green screen 3-light setup. It's got the hair light, and this is going to be directly overhead of the subject. You want to have the subject far enough away from the green screen wall. Obviously when I show you some of these pictures, you're going to see it also comes onto the floor. So if you're doing full length, which is what I definitely recommend for doing these extractions for Xtreme teams, is doing full length, you're going to want to have the probably about a 10 foot by 20 foot, and the best ones that I've found is on Amazon.com, and they're called Prism. So look for the Prism backgrounds on Amazon. Those are going to have the best green to them. But these are the settings. Obviously when you set this up, make sure these settings work for you. You may have to tweak them, but this is what I have found to be the best. And there's another setup as well where you can remove the hair light and just put a light on the left and the right. In fact, I've got that set up here as well. But you want to make sure that you have equal lighting on that green screen if you're not going to have the hair lights. So for example, you want to put these background lights to the right and the left, and these are just to light the background. They don't need to be very powerful, just enough to make sure that there's no shadows being kicked onto the background from your subject, or even if there are shadows, they're going to be so light that they won't matter. So these are some of the settings. Now the other things that you want to make sure of, and these are the rules that you cannot break if you're going to be doing this system. The first rule is going to be every player stands in the same spot. What I suggest is getting 2 small pieces of green tape. You can get green screen tape or chroma key green tape. Put 2 pieces on the floor, and that's where your feet will be for each player when they walk up. That way the players are in the same spot every time. Now the next rule in this is going to be rule number 2, which the camera never moves. In a sense, when you're doing these team photos for the Xtreme teams, you want to almost think of your subjects as a almost like a product. So if you're doing product photography, you have that little white box set up, and your camera you usually have on like a trigger instead of having to actually click the camera manually. It's kind of the same thing. Your person's going to be the product, your camera's not going to move, your lens is not going to move. So when you frame this up, make sure that you frame it up for the tallest person possible so that you never have to touch the camera, because at some point during the shoot, if you have to zoom in or zoom out for zoom out for somebody, you're going to ruin this entire process, because the end result, we want to make sure that we have everybody set up proportionally correct to each other as they come into Photoshop, and that's very important. So rule number 1, subjects in the same spot. Rule number 2, the camera never moves. And then the next rule is going to be frame up the green screen. Like I mentioned before, you want to make sure that you have everything in one spot so that nothing moves, but you also don't want to have anything in the green screen. Now the samples I'm about to show you in this process, there were some things in there, but there's some stuff we can do in the editing process to quickly remove them. But for the sake of not having to deal with that, make sure that when you shoot this, all you have is green in your camera. You shouldn't have equipment. But that's the next rule. And the last one is the players are going to face the camera directly. That means that they're going to be straight onto the camera, not turned sideways, not quarter turned. They're straight onto the camera, and we want to light them with kind of flat lighting so that they all look like they were in the shot together. So that's pretty much these rules, and you could pause the screen on those spots to write things down if you want, but we're going to actually get into this process. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be using Easy Green Screen. If you don't know Easy Green Screen and you use any other programs, this program is the best that I have found to do green screen extractions, and it is a Photoshop plugin. Now the benefits of that is that it uses the power of Photoshop and all of that comes with Photoshop to extract the green. You can do a lot of research on them if you want. They do have a free trial. You can always go to our website, photosolutionsmarket.com, and on our homepage you'll see a link directly to their program. Now, the other thing the only downside is it's not a standalone program. Now, it also doesn't batch right away, but there is something I'm going to show you here on how to create an action to use Easy Green Screen as a batch process. Right now it's a one-on-one kind of deal, but after you watch the tutorial you'll be able to see how to make an action. And I'm using Photoshop CS6 here, so some lower versions may act differently than this, but it should have about the same effect. So the first thing I'm going to do is create my action. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in one of my players that was shot on green. And you can see right here, that's the light I was talking about. You do not want to have that in the shot. Now, this one was shot a little bit incorrectly, and I wanted to use this team to show you how good this program is, because there are a lot of shadows. There are a lot of shadows here, but this program is going to be really awesome. And I'm only going to use this program for its base functions here. There's a lot more detail that can be done with this program, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to use the base features of it. So the first thing we need to do is create an action. So what we're going to do is come up to our windows, and we're going to go to Actions. And that's going to bring up our Actions palette. What we need to do is create a new action. So we're going to hit this, and we're just going to call this Xtreme Team. And we're just going to say Record. Now at this point, anything that I do, it's going to record. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and come over to my crop tool, and I'm going to select out the top here, because I know there's some junk up there, and also over a little bit to the left. And let's go ahead and bring it in a little bit this way and a little bit up. Now the nice thing is it's going to do the same exact crop on every single photo, so I don't have to worry about the proportions going away, because it's going to do exactly the same thing on every photo. Now if you try to do these all manually and crop them manually, you're going to get out of proportion, so you don't want to do that. So I'm going ahead and get rid of the stuff on the side, and I'm going to hit Apply. That's going to record that spot. Now at this point I'm going to come up to Filter and go to Easy Green Screen Pro. Now the one thing about Easy Green Screen, they'll be coming out with something new soon called Chroma Lab, which is going to be really awesome, because it's actually going to have a batch process in it that you don't have to record an action to process through Easy Green Screen with a batch feature. So, but for right now, until that happens, this is what you're going to have. So at this point it's ran through its first initial stage. We could clean it up here a little bit by doing some adjusting the mask or adjusting the spill, but it did a really good job right out the gate, so I'm just going to stick with this for right now. So at this point I'm going to go ahead and hit Apply, and that's going to finalize the extraction. Now the way that Easy Green Screen works is you'll notice that it's all over here in different layers, which means you can come in and you can fix things, but because I'm doing a batch, I'm going to let it run the way it is. So at this point I'm going to go ahead and merge all of the layers. So we can do this by just coming over here and saying merge layers, or actually merge visible. That's going to merge them all down. Now what we need to do is go ahead and save it. So I'm going to do a save as, and then I'm going to come down here and select a PNG, and we're going to hit save, and then OK, and that's going to save that new file. Once that gets done, it takes a couple seconds. Alright, now that it's saved, we're going to go ahead and close the file, and we're going to say no to saving changes. Very important you say no. Now at this point we come back over to our actions, and we're going to hit stop, because now we've recorded that entire thing. We don't have to do it again. So now what we can do is we can come over here to File, and we're going to say Automate, Batch. We're going to head and select Xtreme Team, which is the one that we just did. We're going to choose the folder in which they live in. So we go ahead and go to our Xtreme Team tutorial video here. And then we're going to go ahead and say Our destination is our folder. Go ahead and choose our new folder. So we'll go back down to our extraction tutorial, and we've got a PNG folder here. Say OK. And we're going to go ahead and say override. We're actually not going to override, so we're just going to go ahead and say OK. And this should go through the whole process that we just set out. And we'll just sit here and let that run. And this is just going to go through every single image that was shot and export them as a PNG. And I'm going to go ahead and drag over my window here, and you'll see here is our copy of our first one. Now while this is running, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've done here with my file structure. What I did is I made a new folder, copied all my images over to it, and you can see they're all labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, but they're labeled by the jersey numbers. So what I did is I went in and I renamed all the jersey numbers the file numbers to what their jersey number was. And what that does is it automatically puts everybody in order for me. Now obviously if you're not going to be assembling your team in numeric order, then you don't need to do this. But in football, they like to be in numeric order. So to make it so that I don't have to figure out what file number was number 1 and what file number was number 2, this is a lot quicker, just going through the files real quick and renaming those to their jersey numbers so that they're always in order. Now this also helps me in the future if I am doing something where I need to do some individual groups, meaning like say the running backs. All I need to do is from the coach get a list of the jersey numbers that are involved in that group, and then I can quickly grab those people out of here and actually assemble a small group by just knowing what their jersey numbers is. I don't need to know their names, I don't need to know what their file numbers were when we shot them, I just need jersey numbers. So it's going to help you in the long run when it comes to putting these together, having them labeled as their jersey numbers. So for right now we're just going to wait for this to get done. I'm going to pause this and let it get through the process, but it does take a little bit of time, but trust me, it's worth it. This program does a heck of a job in extracting, it does an amazing job with hair, and I've used all the other programs. I've FX Home, Photo Key, all the other programs, and nobody comes close to how well these guys extract it for green screen. And you notice how clean that is. There is nothing, there's no shadows anymore. It got rid of everything, and you can't say that with some of the other programs. A lot of the other programs you have to tweak a lot, and one image it might not be the same as another image in the way that they work. So these do an amazing job with Easy Green Screen. Like I said, go to their website by going to photosolutionsmarket.com, click on Easy Green Screen right on our homepage, and get this program. It's going to be well worth your money and well worth your time. You're going to love the results. So for right now, we're just going to pause, and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so at this point, we're finishing up the last one, and you can see it's a coach. If you had a question about what I named the coaches files, I just named them C1, C2, C3, C4, and on, just to make sure they're all in the same category when the files get sorted. So right now, we're just finishing this one up, and we'll be getting started on assembling the team. Now this took about, I'd say, anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes. Depends on how big your files are for one. It also depends on how fast your computer is. So slower computer may take a little longer, bigger files may take longer, so on. But at this point now, you'll see that I have a PNG file cut out of every single player on this team. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and view these as a list and sort them by file type, and I've got all my PNGs right here. I'm going to go ahead and get these out of my JPEG folder. Let's go ahead and put them in the PNG folder, so now all my PNGs are in the same spot. I'm just going to drag this over to the left, and every time you see me drag something over to Photoshop, I'm just dragging and dropping from that folder over to here. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and open up my template now. And I'm going to be using the equalizer template, which is from volume 2 of the Xtreme teams. And the other thing I'm going to do is first I'm going to check the file size of this template. And a really easy way of duplicating this file size is just come down to your background, Control A or select all, copy, and then Control N or a new file will make it exactly the same size. So now this is the exact same size canvas. What I'm going to do is actually make this canvas bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and make it a lot bigger than what it is and apply that. So now I know that this is a lot bigger than what I'm dealing with. At this point I'm just going to grab everybody in that folder, so the entire stack, and drop them into Photoshop. Now if you're not in CS5 or above, this won't work this way, and I would definitely suggest not doing Xtreme teams if you're any lower than CS5. Because CS5 you can drag and drop directly onto a canvas, otherwise it's going to open them up in a million different windows that you'll have to then transfer into this window. So for this one all I have to do is drag and drop them in, just keep hitting enter, and it will start stacking everybody up in one spot. So I'm just going to keep hitting enter, and that's just going to, like I said, keep stacking everybody in until everybody's in there. If you are using a lower version of Photoshop, you probably want to upgrade to Photoshop CC, the Creative Cloud version, because like I said, if you don't have CS5 or above, this will be a pain in the neck. And you won't want to do this, you won't want to do Xtreme teams if you can't drag and drop directly into a canvas. It'll take a lot longer, and you don't want to move everybody independently because it just makes things get out of proportion very easily. So we're just going to keep dropping until everybody's in there. But as you can see over my files on my right, everybody's coming in numeric order because I have everybody's files in numeric order. So I'm keeping everybody organized by their numbers so that I can quickly assemble this team shot. So we're getting close to the end here. There's our coaches. And you can see everybody's coming in a little bit small on this canvas, mainly because I made this canvas so big. But that's okay because we'll be doing some things here. So first thing I'm going to do is grab everybody. We're just going to bring them over here. Just going to make them bigger here for a second just so I can see everybody. And now we're going to assemble the team. Now the way I like to assemble teams, first I get my numbers and then I figure out how many in each row. Everybody does it differently. A lot of people have mathematical formulas that they use to stack your teams. Really do the same thing you would do on photo day. If you had a certain number of players, what would you put in the first, second, third, and fourth, and fifth rows? If you're assembling, it's the same exact principle here. So I've already done my math and I know I need 9 in my first row. So first I'm going to do is grab my coaches and go ahead and start assembling my coaches. Now I'm going to be making my team by their jersey numbers, so I'm going to kind of keep everybody's chests in the same spot. Looks like this might be our head coach. Let's go ahead and put him over here and just kind of shoulder to shoulder. Again, everybody's chests right in the same row. Alright, don't worry about their feet. That's going to be hidden behind the front row of the design. So now what we need to do is come and find our first row. And like I said, we have 9, so we've already got 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sorry, 5. So we need 4 people. So I'm just going to start from the bottom and count 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you have auto select turned on, make sure that's turned off. That's up here in the top left. Because once you grab here, it's going to grab the first person in line if you have that turned on. So right now I've got those 4 selected, and let's bring them over here. Now to move them around again, go ahead and hit auto select because that will select the first person. And let's go ahead and split these guys out. Again, keeping everybody by jersey numbers in height. And there's our first row. So now we have our first row. So the next row is going to be 10. So I'm going to go ahead and come down to my bottom, and we're going to pick the next 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Turn auto select off so I can move those people out. Go ahead and turn it back on again, and we'll start moving these guys. Now one thing you want to do is before you start here, go ahead and grab everybody and move them down to the bottom. On PC that's Control Shift left bracket, and that's going to shift everybody down to the bottom. Now we're going to go ahead and grab and drag up numbers right there and just space these guys out. Now one thing you could do is just bring everybody up over here and go ahead and just keep dragging just to the left, from the right, left to the right. Again, bringing those jersey numbers in order. Alright, now we're going to do the next row, and I've got 9 slated for that next row. So I'm going to look and see what my last jersey number was. It was 21. So I'm going to go find up here, we're going to find 22, and we're going to count 9 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And I'm holding down the control key as I'm clicking, and that's how I'm getting these highlighted all at the same time. So go ahead and turn auto select off, drag that 9 over, go ahead and move them to the back, bring them up right there, and we'll turn auto select back on so we can just grab the guy on the top and we'll just sort them across. And keep those jersey numbers all in the same row. And I'm going to kind of do this quick here. I'm not going to really pay attention to fine-tuning it for right now, just so you guys get the idea. Okay, my last row is the last 8. So starting from 53, we'll find where the next number is. We got 55. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That should be everybody right here. Just to make sure, I'm going to turn auto select off. It is. So we'll go ahead and move these guys to the back now. Bring them up to the top. Auto select back on, and we'll move these guys over. There we go. Now we have our team shot. Okay, so now at this point what we're going to do is we have our template over here. We want to make sure that we drop it into the template in the right spot, which is going to be below these top and bottom bars. So I'm going to go ahead and find where the top and bottom bars end. There's our top bar, so we're just going to go right here, and let's go ahead and drop them in at this point. So just grab the whole group, drag and drop into the template, and now we can just do a Control T and size that group. Just position them where you want them to be. Go ahead and hit apply. Go ahead and wait for that to go. Now if you want this to go quicker, what you can do is actually rasterize all of your players instead of having them as smart objects like I've done. But I like to be able to make them bigger if I need to, so I don't do that. So at this point we just, like I said, position them to where they need to be. And now we can just change the colors of the template. So we can go back down here to the bottom, color overlay, change that to the burgundy color that they are. And of course if you have the color code, it always helps. And let's go ahead and do the top bar color overlay. And once you've done this once for a team, you don't ever have to do it again. That's the nice thing about it. There we go. And we'll just make sure we copy that so we use it on the bottom. And same thing on the bottom. And we have these color bars here, more color overlays to adjust. There we go. And now we can just call this Eagles. Go ahead and stretch that out using our free transform tool. And we'll change this to say varsity football. Go ahead and select our years, put the current years in here. And then if you have your school's logo, you can just drag and drop that into the template. Just like that. That's pretty much it, guys. That is how it is to put together an Xtreme team. Now, if you don't merge all your players together, you could always do some fine-tuning at this point. You can always come in and readjust your players, make them be wherever you want them to be. But that's really it, guys. It's really not that difficult. It does take a little bit of time, but the end result is unquestionable. It is exactly what the schools are wanting right now. You can do whatever you need to do with these teams. You can make small groups, large groups. Really, just build that team, drag it in, you're good to go. So, till next time, I'm Shaun with Photo Solutions Market, Photo Solutions University, and Spotlight Photographics. Have a good one.